Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that honestly frustrates so many of you, this chronic low-grade inflammation that just sticks around. You've done the anti-inflammatory diet, you're getting your rest, you've tried to optimize your lifestyle, but you still wake up feeling, well, physically awful. And we're not just talking about, like, the effects of eating too much sugar. Our mission today is really to dig deeper than those surface-level habits. We want to identify the signs of this resistant kind of inflammation and explore some of the more profound and, frankly, interesting reasons why your immune system might be permanently switched on, no matter how healthy you think you're being.
Yeah, and that's the key point. When those healthy habits stop making a difference, it's a huge signal. It tells us the body is fighting something persistent, something deeper. It's really beyond just food choices at that stage. Our sources strongly suggest we need to look at triggers that are, infectious or toxic. These require a much more strategic, systemic approach. We're talking about things people don't often consider, like low-grade viruses hanging around, certain bacteria, parasites, even amoeba. And then there's the toxicity angle, heavy metals, and the ever-present microplastics these days.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting right from the moment someone opens their eyes in the morning. If you suspect you're dealing with this, what are those first telltale signs? Where does it show up?
Often it hits you the second you wake up. People describe it vividly, like feeling like a robot. It's
Yeah.
not just morning grogginess, it's this profound physical rigidity. You feel absolutely stiff, maybe joints ache, muscles are sore, but you haven't even worked out. That feeling day after day, even when you've rested, that's a major red flag for the systemic inflammation.
Right. And I've heard people mention a kind of dullness too, like a general numbness, feeling sort of desensitized but also swollen at the same time. You know, that feeling where your shoes suddenly feel tight or your waistband feels like it's digging in.
Exactly. That puffiness is very common, often a direct sign of the inflammatory processes. And then, moving from the physical, we often see it hit the brain. Neuroinflammation, that's the brain fog people talk about. It's this really extreme fatigue, but it's coupled with this inability to think clearly. Simple mental tasks suddenly feel overwhelming.
What about things like vision or balance? Does it affect those too?
It can, yeah. The sources mention things like blurred vision, even when your glasses prescription is fine, or a sense of permanent instability, like dizziness that doesn't quite go away, and tinnitus, that annoying ringing or whistling in the ears. That's another common clue that the nervous system itself is inflamed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I imagine this constant physical and mental uh, stress must really mess with sleep and mood too.
Oh, absolutely. This level of systemic inflammation puts the nervous system on high alert constantly. So it very often leads to chronic anxiety, sometimes depression, even panic attacks.
Because you're just perpetually overstimulated. Right.
Precisely. And the sleep itself becomes a huge issue. It's typically non-restorative. You might crash into bed exhausted, but then bam, you're wide awake 2 or 3 hours later, and you just can't get back to that deep sleep. It becomes this vicious cycle, you see. Poor sleep fuels more inflammation, which disrupts sleep further.
And let's touch on the digestive clues, especially when someone's already eating clean and still having problems. Like if you've gone full anti-inflammatory, but you're still getting really painful gas, or maybe gas that smells particularly bad.
That can be a sign of bacterial overgrowth. Or that really dramatic bloating after meals where you feel like you look pregnant in real time. Those are strong indicators that despite the clean diet, there's a deeper issue, likely pathogenic bacteria or significant gut irritation that isn't being addressed.
So the big question then, if changing habits hasn't fixed it, what is the immune system actually fighting so hard against?
That's exactly where we need to shift focus. Beyond the diet, beyond the lifestyle tweaks, we have to look at these deeper, often hidden triggers.
You mentioned pathogens and toxicity. Let's start with the infectious side.
Right. Sometimes it's persistent viral infections, maybe Epstein-Barr or others just simmering in the background, or bacterial infections that never fully clear. And parasites are surprisingly common culprits for chronic inflammation. Think about it something like an amoeba or another gut parasite. It's literally living off you, consuming your nutrients. This can be so significant, especially in children, that it actually slows their development because the parasite is stealing vital resources. Your immune system is constantly trying to manage these unwanted guests.
Constantly on defense. And then there's the toxic side of things, the modern environmental burden.
Yeah, that's huge. Our bodies are dealing with a constant onslaught from compounds we encounter every single day. Heavy metals, lead, mercury, cadmium, those microplastics we mentioned, which are turning up everywhere, agrochemicals, pesticides from food, even residues from cleaning products we use at home. These aren't just passing through, they can get lodged in our tissues, fat, bone, organs, and act like constant irritants. The immune system keeps flagging them as threats, keeping that inflammatory fire burning indefinitely.
And it seems like this inflammation doesn't just stay in one place, right? It kind of spreads, causing knock-on effects throughout the body.
Absolutely. It rarely stays localized. It often throws your whole metabolism out of whack, affecting how your body handles glucose and cholesterol. And the hormonal system takes a big hit too. Chronic inflammation and the stress it causes can really disrupt hormones like testosterone, progesterone, LH, FSH. They all suffer. That's why the liver becomes so critical in all this. It's basically the main engine trying to manage the cleanup from all this systemic and metabolic inflammation.
Which brings us to something I found really interesting in the source material, this warning about the cachitologos. Could you explain what that means?
Ah, yes, the cachitologo. It refers to a specialist who only looks at one small piece, a caquito, of the whole picture. Someone who only treats the gut, or only focuses on the brain, or only deals with skin issues.
Just one little bit.
Exactly. And the sources are really clear on this. That kind of fragmented approach just doesn't work for these resistant chronic problems. The body is a whole integrated system. You can't fix a skin issue without considering the lungs, for example, or optimize energy without looking at sex hormones. The approach has to be integrative, functional, and strategic, seeing the whole person.
Okay, so if the problem is complex, systemic, and habits aren't enough, we obviously need better data. What kind of specific tests do people need to ask for to find this resistant root cause? This sounds like it goes way beyond a standard yearly checkup.
Oh, definitely way beyond. We essentially need 3 key types of deep analysis. First, a truly comprehensive laboratory blood analysis. And I mean exhaustive, not just the basic cholesterol and blood count. We need a detailed look at the entire metabolism, every vitamin, every mineral, trace elements, and critically, a specific panel for heavy metals.
Why isn't the standard blood test good enough for something like heavy metals? Doesn't it show up there?
Well, that's the tricky part. A standard serum blood test often only shows what's floating around in your bloodstream right now. But if you've been accumulating something like lead or mercury over years, it doesn't stay in the blood for long. It quickly moves into deeper tissues, your fat, your bones, your organs. That's where it causes the long-term damage. So the blood test might look normal, but your tissues could actually be loaded with these metals.
Okay. That makes sense. So what are the other 2 tests?
The second crucial one is a detailed, comprehensive stool analysis. And again, we need to go way beyond just looking at the shape or consistency, like the Bristol scale. We need chemical and microscopic analysis to actually detect parasites, identify pathogenic bacteria or yeast, and really map out the balance of the entire microbiome, the good bacteria, viruses, even worms if they're there. This is vital for pinpointing gut-driven issues.
And the third tool sounds quite advanced, getting a snapshot of what's inside the actual cells.
Yes, that's the intracellular screening. It's often done using something called spectrophotometry, maybe with a device like an oligoskin applied right to the palm of your hand. It gives you an immediate, non-invasive picture of the heavy metals, trace elements, vitamins, and minerals that are actually stored inside the cells of the stratum corneum, the outer skin layer. This tells you about the body's stores and toxic burden at the cellular level, which, as we discussed, can be very different from what's just circulating in the blood at that moment.
That really gets to the heart of it. If the problem is hiding in the tissues, you need tests that look in the tissues.
Yeah.
How easy is it for someone to get these kinds of tests?
The comprehensive stool analysis is fairly common now, especially if you work with a functional medicine practitioner. The intracellular screening, like oligoskin, is a bit newer. You'd likely need to find an integrative or functional doctor who actually has that specific technology. But the information you get, particularly about hidden heavy metals, can be absolutely game-changing. It's often the missing piece for cracking resistant inflammation.
Right. So once we have that data,
Yeah.
let's say we've identified a heavy metal issue and maybe some gut dysbiosis, then we need a plan, a strategic intervention. What are the key pillars we need to address?
It really requires a synchronized approach, hitting several areas at once. Pillar 1 is all about energy and mitochondrial support. Think about it. If you're chronically inflamed, your cellular power plants, the mitochondria, are under immense stress and likely not working efficiently. The goal is to boost their quality and help the body clear out damaged ones and make new healthy ones.
And why is focusing on energy so fundamental for actually resolving the inflammation itself?
Because getting rid of the junk requires energy. It takes a significant amount of cellular energy, not just to function day to day, but to actively break down and eliminate waste products. This includes senescent cells, old, damaged, inflamed cells that need to be cleared out.
Yeah.
Your body literally needs the power to, as the source puts it, discard them via the toilet. If your mitochondrial energy production is low, your body just can't keep up with the cleanup, and the inflammatory garbage piles up.
So how do we supercharge those cellular batteries?
Well, one key goal is achieving metabolic flexibility, being able to efficiently use different fuel sources like glucose, fats, even lactic acid. Lifestyle-wise, sometimes strategies like consolidating eating into a smaller window, maybe just 1 or 2 meals a day, can help the body save energy for repair. And then supplement-wise, we look at specific mitochondrial boosters. Things like coenzyme Q10, KQQ, that's pyrroloquinoline quinone, which is fascinating because it actually helps build new mitochondria, and methylene blue, which acts almost like a direct cellular battery charger.
And that energy boost is crucial for the repair work needed elsewhere, right? Which leads us nicely to the gut.
Exactly. That energy is desperately needed for Pillar 2, gut barrier repair. Remember that bloating and distension we talked about? That points to leaky gut, or more technically, pathological intestinal hyperpermeability. We need that entire digestive tract, all 30 feet of it from mouth to anus, to be like a strong selective barrier, keeping toxins out while letting nutrients in.
And L-glutamine is often mentioned here, isn't it, for sealing things up?
L-glutamine is definitely a key player. It's the preferred fuel source for the cells lining the gut. But we need to think systemically. If there are issues higher up, like stomach irritation or problems with acidity, we might also need things like zinc carnosine to protect the stomach lining, maybe vitamin A, or even soothing aloe vera, but making sure it's the kind without aloin, which can sometimes be irritating itself.
Okay, so we've boosted energy, we're repairing the gut wall. Now what about the things living in the gut and the pain?
Right. That brings us to Pillar 3, microbiome management and pain relief. Often this starts with tackling bacterial overgrowth, whether it's general imbalance dysbiosis or specific small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. Managing that usually involves a combination of biotics, maybe specific probiotics, prebiotics to feed the good guys, symbiotics, sometimes even paraprobiotics, which are heat-killed microbes that still have beneficial effects. And it's really important to check for Helicobacter pylori too. Usually with a breath test or stool test, ideally avoiding endoscopy if possible, H. pylori can become much more aggressive when overall inflammation is high.
And let's circle back to those physical symptoms. That awful joint and muscle pain, the robot feeling. What helps there?
For that kind of structural and immune-related joint pain, undenatured type 2 collagen, UCDII, is really interesting. It's different from the regular hydrolyzed collagen people take for skin. UCDII works more like a signal to your immune system. It helps teach the immune system to be less reactive towards your own joint tissues, calming that specific inflammatory attack. So it helps with structure and modulates the immune response.
That's clever. What about more general immediate pain and inflammation relief?
For that, a powerful combination is often recommended. Curcumin phytosome, which is a highly absorbable form of curcumin from turmeric plus piperine from black pepper extract, taken together with chelated vitamin C. That specific combination is important because the vitamin C seems to massively boost the effectiveness of the curcumin, potentially making it up to 30 times more potent than just eating turmeric in your food.
Wow, 30 times. That's significant. Okay, final pillar. Pillar 4. Neurocognitive support. Connecting the dots back to the brain fog, mood issues, and sleep problems.
Exactly. We need to support the gut-brain axis directly. For that mental fatigue, the brain fog, and especially the chronic insomnia, often driven by neurotransmitter imbalances from all the stress, 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan, can be very helpful. It's a direct precursor to serotonin.
What about if someone is literally being woken up at night by gut issues, like gas or bloating interrupting their sleep?
Yeah, for that specific nighttime gas or distension that fragments sleep, N-acetyl L-carnitine might be beneficial. It can help regulate gut motility and reduce that discomfort. And finally, managing stomach acid properly is key. Many people with chronic inflammation actually have low stomach acid or hypochlorhydria. In that case, they might need betaine HCl with meals to improve digestion. Conversely, if someone genuinely has high acid or hyperchlorhydria, then soothing agents like the L-glutamine we mentioned earlier become important to protect the stomach lining.
This has been incredibly clarifying. I think the main takeaway here is that this resistant chronic inflammation isn't just about willpower or not trying hard enough with diet. It's really a signpost, isn't it? A signal from your body
that there's likely a deeper issue, a persistent infection, or a toxic overload that needs a much more thorough, integrative investigation, looking way beyond a standard blood test.
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. Resolving this hinges entirely on identifying that root cause and then systematically supporting all the interconnected systems, boosting cellular energy, repairing the gut, balancing hormones, managing the microbiome, and actively clearing out whatever toxins or pathogens were identified. It's about treating the whole person, not just chasing symptoms. And maybe here's a final thought for you, something to really chew on. We put so much focus and energy into what we put into our bodies, the organic food, the filtered water, the expensive supplements. But perhaps the biggest bottleneck, the real sticking point when it comes to resolving this kind of deep, resistant inflammation, lies in the body's ability to efficiently process and, crucially, discard what it doesn't need. If your cells simply don't have enough mitochondrial energy to power the cellular waste disposal systems to flush out those toxins, those pathogens, those old senescent cells, then no amount of dietary perfection is going to fix the downstream backup. Energy, fundamentally, is the currency the body uses to clean house. Without enough of it, the cleaning just doesn't get done.